report. We'll see you back here tonight at 6.
This morning in the Oval Office, President Bush putting the final touches on his ultimatum to Saddam Hussein.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. Remember the date and the time. Saturday, February the 23rd at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Time, 8 o'clock in the evening in Baghdad. President Bush has given Saddam Hussein until then to begin evacuating Kuwait or, and he left the or else pretty much up to the imagination. There has been no clear yes or no from the Iraqi leader as of yet, but it is now very evident that if he doesn't begin moving his forces, the Allied coalition is on the verge of invading Kuwait and Iraq by land. It has been a breathtaking 24 hours, during which the Soviet-Iraqi plan for getting out of Kuwait has been completely eclipsed by the president's ultimatum. And here are the president's terms. Iraqi forces must begin a large-scale withdrawal by noon tomorrow. 48 hours later, Iraqi troops would have to be out of Kuwait City, the capital, permitting the legitimate Kuwait government to return. The Iraqis would have to be out of Kuwait entirely within a week, returning to the positions they held on August the 1st, the day before the invasion. They would have to release all prisoners of war within 48 hours and return the remains of any servicemen who were killed. Remove any booby traps they'd set and tell the Allies where all the minefields are. No Iraqi combat planes would be permitted to take off, no anti-aircraft fire. Only transport planes carrying troops out of Kuwait would be permitted in the air. And last, the Iraqis would have to pledge not to do any further damage to Kuwaiti citizens or to Kuwaiti property. Our first report is from the White House. Here's ABC's Britt Hume.
In the Oval Office today, a long morning that followed a late night of intense consultation as the president met with his most senior advisors, spoke by telephone with coalition leaders, and went over the statement he was about to read outside. When he began that statement, he had thanks to the Soviets for their negotiating effort. But it quickly became clear that Mr. Bush was not making a diplomatic counteroffer. It would be an ultimatum.
The coalition will give Saddam Hussein until noon Saturday to do what he must do. Begin his immediate and unconditional withdrawal from Kuwait. We must hear publicly and authoritatively his acceptance of these terms.
After the president went back to his office, he later took a phone call from Soviet leader Gorbachev, who outlined the revised Soviet plan. While the hour and 15-minute conversation kept reporters waiting for spokesman Marlon Fitzwater's announcement of the coalition's tough withdrawal terms, it didn't change them. And there were questions about whether the U.S. was now going beyond the UN resolutions and imposing new conditions of its own on Saddam.
These are the minimum kinds of actions that he needs to take to comply with those resolutions, to indeed get out of Kuwait unconditionally.
What is in this, if anything, for Saddam Hussein?
A chance to save his country and to do the thing he should have done the day after he went in on August 2nd.
Few people here tonight think Saddam will suddenly accept the Bush ultimatum and get out. But nobody is really sure. Indeed, Soviet President Gorbachev told the president today he doesn't know what Saddam will do or even if he'll accept the latest Soviet offer. Peter?
Fred, it's been 37 days since the war began, but in the last 36 hours, the pace has seemed to pick up tremendously. What accounts for that at the White House?
Well, a couple of things, Peter. First, I think that the ground war was about ready to go, and so that was a matter of time. And the second thing is I think the administration, indeed it has indicated, it has long been afraid of being drawn into some negotiating process in which it would never be able to get the outright victory and triumph in all of this for the coalition that it believes is necessary and available.
Okay, Britt Hume of the White House, thanks very much. In Baghdad, where the Allied bombing has cut off most water and electricity, a statement was read on behalf of the ruling Revolutionary Command Council. You can see the light he uses. It calls Mr. Bush's ultimatum shameful, but it does not reject it outright. Instead, the council says it supports the Soviet initiative, which, as we said, seems to have been overtaken by events. In Moscow tonight, ABC's Jim Laurie.
At a hastily called news conference, the Soviets revealed what appeared to be an attempt to narrow differences between U.S. demands and what the Soviets believe the Iraqis will accept. The Soviet plan calls for a ceasefire, then an Iraqi pullout within 3 weeks, not 1 week as the U.S. demands. The withdrawal from Kuwait City would take 4 days instead of 2 days. All UN resolutions against Iraq would be rescinded after the withdrawal is complete.
This is the maximum we could achieve with Iraq in the current situation.
These latest efforts to head off a ground war came after day-long meetings between the Soviet and Iraqi foreign ministers. The Soviets realize they are now in a race against time, but they believe Saddam Hussein is ready to withdraw, if only he's allowed to save some face, which they say the American demands do not permit.
This looks a bit like an ultimatum, and whenever the ultimatum is being put in front of somebody, it puts this somebody into a bit of a humiliated position.
As the Soviets pursue their diplomatic initiatives, they say they are in close contact with the U.S., but that their efforts are and should be independent.
We regard it as an effort which we have to undertake since it is our responsibility as a superpower, if you will.
Iraqi Foreign Minister Tariq Aziz remains in Moscow tonight, but the Soviets appear now to realize that unless there is some give in Washington or more in Baghdad, their efforts will come to nothing. Jim Laurie, ABC News, Moscow.
As if now it does appear that their efforts have come to nothing. Joining us in Washington this evening is our national security correspondent, John McWethy. John, why the determination by the Bush administration to rush right on past the Soviet-Iraqi negotiations?
I think there was some concern early on, Peter, that the initiative which the Soviets had taken might capture the imagination of much of the world, and it would fall so far short of what the Bush administration wanted that the president felt it was time to move and move quickly to let everyone know that it did fall short and that the U.S. had to establish a new set of lines.
So pulling all together that which you know now, how strong does the administration think its hand is?
At this point, Peter, it is difficult to judge that. I believe that the administration looks at Saddam Hussein's position at this point and believes that he is in a very desperate situation. He has failed in many of the goals that he set out initially to achieve. Certainly, he has not aroused the masses throughout the Arab world and the moderate Arab countries to overthrow their governments. He has not managed to draw Israel into this war. He has not managed to achieve large numbers of casualties against the U.S., and his own country at this point is in a disastrous shape.
And in a word, John, confirm for me, the Soviet plan is now deemed irrelevant.
It is irrelevant, except I have to tell you, Peter, late tonight there are just the little hints that the Soviets are still working with the Iraqis, trying to narrow the differences still further.
Okay, John McWethy at the State Department, thanks very much. We'll have more news in just a moment.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Jeep and Eagle.
Ask me what counts most after 40 years in the car business, and I don't have to think twice. 1, the minivans. We invented them. 2, driver's airbags in every car we build in this country. What do we do for an encore? Put them together. Minivans with a driver's side airbag. Nobody else is doing it. You still have to use your seatbelt with a minivan airbag, but it will save lives. A lot of lives.
Before I even consider taking a medicine, I have to feel good about it. So before I switched from Tylenol to Advil, I did my homework. I found that doctors have recommended Advil over 50 million times, and that over 100 million people have tried it. That includes me. And you know, 2 Advil work better on my really tough headaches than 2 extra-strength Tylenol. Hey, I don't take just any medicine, but I do take Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Picking up on where John McWethy left off, that the Soviets are still working on the Iraqis, let's work for a few minutes on a presumption that Saddam Hussein may decide to leave unconditionally. Joining us from Washington is our military analyst, Tony Cordesman. Tony, if he does decide to leave, and I grant you it's presumption, how difficult is it for him to get out in 4 days?
Peter, it may be easier than it seems, and he really has up to 7 days. If we look at the map, he has only 1 division in Kuwait City. He can easily get that out in 48 hours, and in fact, he can get it out in 8 to 6. That's where the white circle is. In the red area, he has some 24 to 20 divisions. Many are armored. He'd have to abandon a lot of his equipment and stocks, but to actually move the 80-odd miles, which is the farthest line they'd have to move. There's only land. They don't have to cross any bridges. Nothing has really been destroyed. The forces here along the border, another 17 divisions, they have lost a lot of their armor equipment, but logistically to move the rest of that manpower out and to start on the routes north is not really that difficult. Now, completing the entire move might be difficult, but there is an escape clause in the terms that if the units continue to retreat, they will not be fired upon.
Thank you for catching me. 4 days was the old plan, 7 days is the current plan. They want them out of Kuwait City in 48 hours because they anticipated the Iraqis might make a stand in a crowded city?
That is, aside from burning the oil fields and using chemical weapons, about the only card they have left. Using urban warfare, the barriers there where we have to fight street by street, and using the Kuwaiti people as human shields.
Tony, just one more question. If he decides not to go, there is surely no element of surprise left for the Allied coalition in terms of a ground attack.
Well, the odd thing, Peter, is we can achieve both strategic and tactical surprise. If we look at that map, and it is a complex one, we can go far to the west, beyond his units, and we can sweep around toward Basra where his units are not located. He can never predict the positions we'll attack. There are gaps and weak points in these defenses. He'll never know where our corps are coming, and along his entire coast, our amphibious and air assault forces can move, and again, no way to predict the patterns of our attack. We have still a tremendous potential for surprise.
Okay, Tony Cordesman, thank you very much. Very interesting. One thing is for certain, after the president's ultimatum, there is no doubt there will be a land attack if Saddam Hussein doesn't begin to move. We'll have more news in just a moment.
In the midday sun, a gentle breeze, the embrace of white eyes, remember these, the touch, the feel, the fabric of our lives, the touch, the feel of cotton, the fabric of our lives.
Farragran wants to know. Changed my life.
Not much.
With Farragran M multivitamins with minerals, fine-tuned for the way you live.
This is Jupiter. Not exactly what you imagined, huh? Same atmosphere, same language, same hairdo. But believe me, Jupiter's an advanced civilization. Just look at the menu. There's beef tenderloin at just 179 calories. That's hardly astronomical. Well, one small steak for me, one giant barbecue for mankind. Beef. Real food in Jupiter, Florida.
President Bush accused the Iraqis today of launching what he called a scorched earth policy aimed at destroying the entire oil production system of Kuwait. The military says that 140 Kuwaiti oil wells have now been set on fire, 100 of them just in the last 24 hours. 25% of Kuwait is now covered by smoke. ABC's Bill Rediker reports, however, those wells are not the only source of smoke in the Kuwaiti skies.
Pilots stepped up their missions today and had their busiest day over Kuwait since the war began. The weather was clear, but smoke from the oil well fires obscured the skies over some of the target areas.
It's real nice up there today. The worst part is the oil smoke here, you see from all the fires.
Marines revealed today that they have been dropping these napalm bombs on Iraqi defensive positions for the past couple of days. They deny the fiery gel has been used against Iraqi troops and say the napalm is being dropped into ditches the Iraqis had filled with oil and planned to ignite as a barrier against advancing ground forces. As these satellite pictures taken shortly after the Iraqis moved in show, the ditches stretch across southern Kuwait and into Iraq. The Allies are trying to burn off the oil before a possible move forward. Artillery duels were again fought along the border today. The Marines exchanged fire at 3 separate locations. They said they destroyed 18 Iraqi tanks and took more than 100 prisoners of war. 1 American was killed and 5 others were wounded by return fire. The U.S. denied Iraq's claim that the land war had begun today, but the Saudis say their army pushed 6 miles into Kuwait, clearing a path through a minefield. Central Command says there will be no pause in the military campaign and no let-up in preparations for a ground war. Frontline troops are being warned that 1 of every 4 Iraqi artillery shells contains poisonous gas, and they have been ordered to wear full protective gear if the U.S. begins an attack. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Saudi Arabia.
This morning, Mr. Bush called the burning of the Iraqi oil fields a wanton act of destruction. But Saddam Hussein may have something other in mind than just wanton destruction. Here's ABC's Bob Zelnick.
These are some of the fires burning in southern Kuwait, seen from a distance of 50 miles. The Pentagon says that smoke from oil wells the Iraqis have deliberately set afire will not interfere with a ground invasion.
We will, if we're directed, be able to conduct military operations, and if we got to go through the smoke, we know how to do that.
Former combat pilots and other analysts think that the fires could pose problems for pilots flying reconnaissance or trying to guide bombs to their targets.
It'd be very difficult to fly underneath it. Even if you could, you're simply going to be flying into his small arms fire.
But Pentagon sources noted that the main thrust of the Allied attack is likely to come well west of the smoky area. Military sources here say they are convinced that recent bombing has raised the number of Iraqi tanks destroyed to nearly 2,000, including about 700 deployed with the Republican Guard, many top-of-the-line T-72s. Some in the Pentagon are predicting mass defections and an Allied victory in less than 2 weeks. Iraq's ability to use chemical weapons does remain a concern because the U.S. has had little success in taking out chemical storage facilities. Sources here say that once the ground war begins, Allied aircraft will try to take out artillery and rocket launches along the route of attack that they hope will destroy most of Iraq's ability to deliver chemical weapons. Bob Zelnick, ABC News at the Pentagon.
Oil prices surged very briefly today on news of the damage to the Kuwaiti oil fields, but then they fell back. West Texas crude closed below $18 a barrel for the first time since mid-July. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials lost 2.5 points to close at 2889. For the week, stocks closed more than 45 points down. That's the first weekly loss since the war began. We'll have more news in just a moment.
Hot one.
Yeah, this is the one we got to run. Heat is not the worst punishment here. Transmission abuse. This test is. It's rock and roll, guys. From drive to reverse, full throttle, over and over. This severe transmission testing improves Oldsmobile's quality. In fact, GM automatic transmissions are rated better built than most imports and all domestic manufacturers. With 84 models redesigned and engineered, GM is putting quality on the road.
Stouffer's invites you to eat like you really like to eat. Introducing 8 of your all-time home-style favorites, like tender Salisbury steak with our original macaroni and cheese, sliced turkey breast in gravy with homemade stuffing. And to tempt you even more, they're all under 370 calories. So dig in. They're new from Stouffer's.
One company knows the global market so well that it brings you investment opportunities from America and around the world. With a family of mutual funds that give you an intelligent, professional approach to investing, combined with the benefits of diversification. The company that has done all this should come as no surprise. Because at Merrill Lynch, we're bullish on your future.
When I say home by 11, I don't mean an hour later.
But Daddy...
Another Maalox moment. It's a medical fact. There's no faster therapy known for your stomach acid than Maalox. It's so strong, if you take it now, it starts working now.
Honey, I just can't help worrying about my little girl.
Daddy, I am 16.
Yeah. Extra strength Maalox Plus. It's a medical fact. There's no faster therapy known. Look for the coupon in Sunday's paper.
From the Iraqi city of Basra today, reports that disease is spreading because the water supplies have been contaminated. The Allies have been bombing Basra every night. It serves as military headquarters for the Southern Front. Allied warplanes were back over Baghdad again today. ABC's Bill Blakemore is there.
Sounds of war began the day in the Athamia district of Baghdad. Anti-aircraft guns reacting to Allied reconnaissance flights in a cloudless sky. And then the men of the district filed into the mosque for regular Friday prayers. The preacher told them that force and faith can go together, that the Iraqi soldiers in Kuwait are heroes. He talked to them of civilian casualties in this war, and he told them the Allied forces are aiming not only to destroy Iraq, but even more, he said, to destroy the faith of Islam itself. When they came out into the sunlight, it seemed for a short time as if peace had come, the streets filling briefly with the quiet bustle of a neighborhood following weekly worship. They all seemed aware that there was a Soviet ceasefire plan under discussion, but they did not seem to know much about the details, only that their president had complained in a speech yesterday that the Allies kept adding conditions which proved the Allies did not want peace. As the day passed, Baghdad radio kept reporting that the stepped-up scale of Allied ground actions on the front today had led the Iraqi military to conclude that the ground war had already begun. By nightfall, as people found their way back into their houses or made their way to shelters, there was reason for many in this capital to be pessimistic about the Soviet peace efforts. If by the time they light their lamps tomorrow night, they find their country is engaged in a full-scale land war with the Allied forces, these people will be disappointed peace did not come, but they will not be surprised. Bill Blakemore, ABC News in Baghdad.
We have one other note from the Gulf. We were sent a photograph today which speaks so much louder than words about the possibilities of a ground war. From next week's edition of Life magazine, in time of war, some of the estimated 50,000 grave sites which Saudi Arabia is digging near the Kuwaiti border. Different sections for Kuwaitis, Egyptians, and Saudis who may die in a ground war, all of them dug facing the holy city of Mecca. According to Life, as many as 50,000 graves. We'll have our final report in a moment.
Good morning, America!
Good morning!
Good morning! Wake up, you sleepyhead!
Good morning
to you!
And you and you!
Get up, get out of bed!
Every morning all across America, over 50 million people come to life with Delta faucets.
Live, love, laugh and be happy.
Good morning, good morning.
Delta,
good
the way water is brought to life.
Do you have a cold?
Yeah.
Here are 2 cold medicines. One relieves these 3 symptoms, this 9. Choose one.
9.
Why?
That's me all the way down the list. Muscle ache, congestion, general body ache, headache.
You chose Dristan over Sudafed.
I am shocked.
Would you try Dristan?
Yes, I would.
How do you feel now?
Night and day difference, 100% better.
Dristan relieves 9 tough cold symptoms.
I love Dristan, yeah. It's great.
Introducing a new idea in air freshening, Glade Country Pottery.
Put out the pottery, put it here, put it there.
Simple, handmade pieces of glazed pottery.
Put it everywhere, put out the pottery, put the fresh country air anywhere.
The porous clay releases the light, fresh scent for 30 days.
Just put out the pottery, put the fresh country air everywhere.
Put out the pottery, new Glade Country Pottery.
This is Bob Mueller. Coming up on Channel 2 News at 6, we will go live to Saudi Arabia to hear what troops think about President Bush's ultimatum that Iraq get out of Kuwait by noon tomorrow or face a ground offensive. We'll have that story and more tonight at 6.
For much of this very dramatic day, first with the Soviet-Iraqi plan and then with the president's ultimatum making so much news, we've tried to get a sense of how it is being regarded on Capitol Hill. It has been more difficult than usual to find any politician who is openly nervous about the possibility of an impending ground war. Joining us from the Hill tonight, ABC's Cokie Roberts. So what's the message up there today, Cokie?
The message is that the American people support this war and no one in Congress is going to even raise any questions whatsoever about it. One Democratic strategist said You know, everybody said when we voted against the war here that we were shooting ourselves in the foot. Now you all want us to come out and question the president's hesitancy to take the Soviet plan. What do you want us to do? Shoot ourselves in 2 feet? Only 7% of American men, according to one poll, said this Democrat, are against this war. We're not crazy enough to speak against it. They've been so frightened about seeming to be unpatriotic that even a hearing this week that was about the Pentagon restrictions on press coverage of the war was in danger of being canceled because some of the people were afraid that maybe it would look a little bit like they were being critical.
Cookie Roberts, observations from the Hill tonight. Thank you, Cookie. Having heard about the politicians, let's go out once again to Route 83. As we've said before, that's the highway which almost bisects the country from Canada all the way to Mexico. So far in his travels down Route 83, ABC's Tom Foreman has found that people are mostly committed to seeing the war through. Tonight's report is a little different from a place where they've always been proud to be a little different.
Every morning, McCook, Nebraska lines its main street with flags, symbols of the town's belief in America in a time of war.
I'd hope that people aren't just, part of a big pep rally.
In a house on the edge of town, Pam Swoboda also believes in America. Enough to say she does not believe this war is right.
Truthfully, I wanted to support it. I wanted to be, join in on all the, everything that's going on. But I just couldn't.
The private battle of conscience over war has an historical place here. In World War I, Nebraska Senator George Norris, McCook's favorite son, stood against popular public sentiment to argue America should not get involved.
Well, you know what they're calling me in Nebraska? Just talk. A traitor.
Today, his home stands as a landmark and a reminder of how he triumphed in convincing the public, not to support his position, but at least to respect his views. Voters kept him in office for another 25 years.
How you doing today?
There are other voices.
From day one, I thought we should be there.
Ralph Sprinkle respects people who oppose the war with Iraq, even though he has a son fighting on the front lines.
You got something that you think is wrong and you don't try to correct it, it's not going to be improved. To make a stronger United States, I think everybody's got to say their opinion.
It is not easy to be in a small town's minority.
I'm so worried about offending people. And when you're in a small town, if you're going to speak out, you're going to speak out against your next door neighbor.
But for these two people, each on a different side of the war, one who stands to lose his son, the other her town's respect, the simple freedom to differ is what America is all about. Senator Norris said 82 years ago, "I would rather lie in the silent grave with a clear conscience than ride in the chariot of victory." Beneath the vast silence of the Great Plains, such sentiments are still heard and understood. Tom Foreman, ABC News, McCook, Nebraska.
And that is our report on World News Tonight. We'll have updates on the war every hour on the hour, later on 2020, and also on Nightline with Ted Koppel. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
And now, the news continues.